Hello, everyone watching. I'm Trishika, and today we have a special guest with us, Miss Sandhya, who is the head of pedagogy and professional development. So, we have something unique to discuss today, and it's our first segment of the day. So, Miss Sandhya, we have an ongoing 5-day teacher training program that's happening, a
Yeah.
professional development program that's happening. So, let's begin. So, why do you believe teacher training is necessary?
I think nobody can do their work well if they're not constantly updated with their skills, their knowledge, their dispositions, and not constantly changing and meeting. This is important to meet the needs of an ever-changing world. So when the world is changing, you can't just have one qualification you did years ago to help you, in
Yes.
that changing world. So that's the reason I think it's very important for teachers to constantly take a learner's stance at all times, especially because we are educators and our job is to help children learn. And if we don't do it ourselves, then we're giving the wrong message. So I think it's important for actually surviving in the field and thriving as a professional. It is very important to constantly engage in learning activities, upgradation.
Okay, that's great. So, how do you think are some of the ways in which a teacher can prepare for a 21st century classroom?
Um, I think it's not just about 21st century, but in any age, any era, uh, people need skills to live in that age and era. And these are not standard and one set of skills that people need. So there have to be multiple sets of skills. You have to have multidisciplinary ways of thinking. And I would say did you say what are the skills
Yeah,
required? Or the biggest skill is to be able to learn. The very big skill. In fact, some of the failures of where we see is where people are not able to adapt, know more, and do more. So ability to learn is important. Second is the ability to think critically. We can't just we are educators, especially when I speak in the context of education and facilitation. uh, as individuals, if we don't know how to think, then we can't teach that skill to others. So just like dance or music, if I don't know music, I can't teach you. So the ability to think critically is very, very important, because once you can do that, you can do a lot of other things. And the ability to learn, I think these are most crucial. But of course, there are other skills where you learn to work with other people, where you learn how to communicate well, how to use good vocabulary when you speak with somebody else, how to express as clearly and as succinctly with very minimal scope for misunderstanding and misinterpretation. These are lifetime skills.
I agree with you on that because usually we think of a facilitator as someone who knows everything, but we also need to understand that the teacher also is still learning a lot of things in the classroom.
Actually, there is a way I define education. It is to understand that not everything can be known. That is one of the I believe, it's a personal thing I've arrived at, that it's not important to know everything, but it is very important to be able to find out when I want to know something. So that's very well. You need not know everything, but you must know if I ever needed something, some piece of knowledge, some skill. Right? Am I able to cope and adapt and pick that? So that is something that will always be required, no matter which century you're in.
So, Ms. Sandhya, since you've had extensive work and experience in the field of professional development of a teacher, I want to know if it's a constant developing change of how a teacher prepares in a classroom, or have you seen as a change from when it started to now in the 21st century? So we want to know if there's a difference between the past and the present.
Actually, it's quite an interesting question. So the answer is both yes and no.
Okay.
So if I look at when I started, I won't reveal my age, but I was 19 when I started, and today I'm much senior, I would say. But this is a span of 30 years I'm talking about.
Okay.
I was a teacher myself, and when I actually started, I didn't have a qualification. I was just a simple BA, and all I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I just grabbed a job. So I saw my colleagues; we all pretty much did the same thing. Maybe I was the odd one now because everybody felt that, oh, too young, shit. So, but I did see that everybody did the same thing. They took their textbook, went to the classroom, taught something, came back, and our job was done. So it was very simple, and probably it worked for that period. And today, I think at that point of time, I was still interested in knowing how to do, because probably I had to compete with a group of experienced people. So I thought, okay, I have to do something different in my classroom. So it was not something that I thought I was a better person, so or a better educator, but I thought, oh, they all are very, so I have to, be the same. So I ended up actually doing good things, like getting children interested in something. But I wouldn't say I was. So if I had to go back, now when in retrospect, it's not such a great thing. I could be a much better teacher. I could have been, and so that is there. But if you look at the thread, the circumstances have changed. The world has changed. The way teaching is perceived has changed. The kind of people who take up teaching also have changed. But there is one thing that has not changed, and that is to think that teaching is just about delivering a lecture, or putting a bunch of children together and completing a set of contents. So there, I feel in those days also teachers did not take initiative to change, and even today you see that teachers don't take personal initiative in wanting to, become better. So that has remained the same, but the world around has changed. So the context is different, but we are not so different. Like you can't really say, the teacher then was not better or is better. No, I would say it's a little difficult to demarket it that way, because even now teachers depend on school to do something for the teacher. Like the school says, oh, you go attend this workshop, or a workshop happens for everyone, once a year, or it's an event. So teachers are like, oh, we have one day where we don't do teaching, and we just get together and do something. But what happens with that day's learning? What are the outcomes of that? Does not get translated even now. So that's something, and that's why we need to change the way we even understand what professional development is. So we have to reimagine it and transform the way we even perceive. And what I do is I keep in mind that when I work with a group of educators, I always say whatever I do must be taken away and be done with the children in the classroom. So I need to model what I want modeled in the classroom.
Yeah,
So everything that I do is something that the teachers can themselves do with their children. So whether it is circle time or whether it is a dialogue and discussion, and I tell them, okay, so pick a topic, and instead of starting, you talk about it in the classroom like a dialogue. So that is what I try to do, and in that sense, I need to reimagine. So I constantly work at it myself, look at my own abilities. See where I stand in different aspects of education. Do I have all the know-how to actually be the facilitator or and am I the only person who can do it? Can I bring elements from different places? All these go into designing of a module. All these thoughts go into designing of a module.
So you'd say that it's a constant
It is
reflection
a
process.
constantly, absolutely, you nailed it. You keep thinking about every action, every word, every piece of content that you write, and you have to love it. I mean, you have to be in love with the dirty work. So, I mean, it's all very nice. You go to many times you go to a session and people love it and they're enthusiastic and, they enjoy the whole thing. But what happens at the back end is not so romantic. There are, for example, when I design a module, one module takes about anything between 50 to 60 hours of preparation. Okay. Right? And those 50 to 60 hours, they're not fun to an onlooker. But I'm enjoying that part more than the actual delivery, because I'm learning. I'm also, and I'm imagining that the people I work with will also see the joy in the rigor itself, and this is what we want in the classroom. So
Thank you for
that's the
that.
thing.
It was nice to hear about your own personal experiences, about what you've learned. I'd also like to ask, since we've had so much of a discussion about, how the teacher needs to be in the classroom and, what experience that they have during their teaching, I want to ask, so according to you, what do you think a good teacher is? What are the kind of qualities do you think a good teacher should have?
I think now I will be repeating myself. I think the most important should be the ability to learn. I can't say standard responses would be you must have passion and you must have love for children. I'm telling you, I may not have passion, but if I know how to learn and deliver, I can still do without passion, because I do understand that not everybody joins teaching field, the teaching domain, of jobs out of love or passion or money, because of what, to be very honest, it's not a field which will make you rich. But there are people who have been earning, big salaries in corporates, women especially coming in teaching. So they come because they don't want to be that stressed. They need to look after their families, and so they feel that teaching is the best choice. So they're not necessarily coming with passion. I can still be okay with that. As long as you know that you learn how to develop skills, you know how to of course passion matters. It's not like, and sometimes it could be an acquired thing, you develop the taste for it once you're in the field. So that is maybe the most important thing that you need to make an effective teacher is the ability to learn. And then, of course, love for what you do is something very personal. It depends, but that tops my list at least. And I always say you must be a reader. You have to have an interest in life. Be an interesting person yourself. So I think so you need to keep working on yourself to make yourself an interesting person. So the question I ask people is, or I ask myself is, would I want to listen to myself? Would I want to sit in my own classroom? For me, that's a good reality check. So, and that is, so you look at your own lessons, you video record it, you see it, and you say, oh, how many people are going to be interested? Maybe I could say that differently. So that ability to look back and reflect about what you do, and the love for what you do, plus the skill of being able to pick up skills, knowledge, and dispositions. These are things I think are most important for me.
And I think that also applies to any other career.
Anybody. That's why if you look at lawyers or if you look at doctors, they're constantly upgrading themselves. Like you won't go to a doctor who doesn't know what's the latest, right? So teaching is just like that and just as important. We may not have that status, but that doesn't mean it's not important. So if we need to meet the needs of the current generation, then we need to understand what is it that the current generation needs, and not for today, but 10 years from now, which no one knows, what it's going to be like. So so we need to have that farsightedness as well. I think these are things that are
Thank you so much for that. I'd also like to ask, since we have an ongoing program that's being conducted right now at CBS, I wanted to ask you what the program is about, this professional development for teachers.
Okay, right now the teachers are undergoing a 5-day course on understanding the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now this is like our curriculum really focuses, the academics part of our curriculum focuses on solving real world problems.
Okay.
And we thought that this sustainable development goal was a really good pitch.
Okay.
So it was we felt that it provided the absolutely necessary and apt context for us to say that academics should be used. It's a tool to actually solve real world problems. Traditionally, in our country, we have been studying subjects just for marks in an isolated way. And many of our young people, they do not know what is the relationship between geography in textbook and the
real world,
actual
yes.
world we live in.
Mhm.
And this is true of all subjects that we study. So what we felt was our curriculum is designed to build people, develop young people to be productive in the real world and thrive in the real world and make the world a better place. So the question for us when I started working on the curriculum and my discussions with Alan, our director, were, can we really design a curriculum which will actually help us make a better world? Can we really do it? And so this is a challenge that we've taken, and we felt that the sustainable goals, the 17 sustainable goals put forth by United Nations, gives a good framework to test that out. So we thought, it would be nice for all the teachers to have an in-depth understanding of what these goals are, because many of them don't even know that these goals exist. And so they're going through a real cathartic process right now, where they're saying, oh my God, look at the destruction we have done in the world, and look at the damage we have done. And somewhere all of us have been responsible for it. So how do we now prevent, more than prevent, two things. How do we stop the destruction, and then how do we prevent further, and how do we find solutions to existing problems, even if at the very small individual or local or the community level, right? Which can later become,
of course,
we want our young people to become problem solvers. We want them to, and through these project-based learning, where the sustainable goals will come in, children will actually start looking at, one, I'm going to take steps to, I'm going to study math, science, whatever, to see if I can solve a traffic problem or a water problem or a climate problem. Can I do that? Second, while I'm doing this, I'm using all the 4 skills, all the 21st century skills. And that is why, whether it's collaboration or communication or creativity, innovation, because you need all these to solve a problem. So they are building those leadership skills which is extensively laid out in our curriculum. And it can't begin if the teachers themselves learn to do those things. So this workshop, I think, one is an eye-opener to the problems that we are facing as a world, and to take responsibility for facilitating the project-based learning process. And I think we are very hopeful, and the teachers are very enthusiastic. They're enjoying the sessions, and it will be great. So they need this course so that they can actually be very effective as project managers when they have to, when the time comes, which is probably December.
I also think that this program strongly reflects the whole learning aspect of a facilitator that you just talked about as well.
Yeah, in fact, at Chaman Bhartiya, it's not only workshops through which people learn, but also through peer observation, through continuous, like we have this, sometimes we have this off-the-cuff discussions. There is reading and dialogue. In fact, we had planned one, a book was given to everybody, and everybody had to read it and then come together. So it's not always formal. There is a facilitator, and it's not just that. It's an ongoing process. You learn something every single day. You talk about what you do, and then you so gossip, if I may say, at Chaman Bhartiya is very different. It's about how do we do a lesson better. How do we improve this aspect our teaching practice? How do we improve that? Which book have you read? So we like that, of course, and it just shows our nature as a school, our ethos and culture of continuous learning and development.
That's great. Thank you for this session. I thought it was lovely having you today. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it myself.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, everybody.